Hello and welcome to my mad lab towards where any idea is not crazy enough, towards where I'm trying to solve out the problems that some teams face with their rosters. Welcome to the Sideline, episode 2. Here we are today and we will try to solve Titans defense, more specifically their pass rush and coverage. And this idea is definitely not batshit crazy, at least I hope so. It might not even be daring because I really think this could work, man. Like, unlike with the Colts, where it's like, yeah, nobody has ever done that. This is like we are trying to improve upon concepts that are working, are working in specific situations in terms of down and down distance, and I'm trying to expand. Well, could they work more with this personnel, kind of as an overall approach to defense? Well, we will find out. Or we will probably won't because it won't happen, but you will let me know in the comments what you think. Now, let's talk about Titan defense so we know what we have to work with, and then we will switch to the idea. So, very quick summary. Titans defense is lacking pass rushers. Their best pass rusher is Jeffrey Simmons, who is really good, but not game-wrecking. He is kind of, in ideal world, he's your number 2. You can do with him as your low-end 1, if he has another good guys next to him. The problem is Titans don't really have these guys. Arden Key is a nice 3. Devondre Sweat is also a nice 3. And that's pretty much it. Like, I don't have too much faith in Draymond Jones or pretty much anyone else on this roster. They have, in terms of their D-line, Sebastian Joseph Day, who I like as a defensive tackle, but in terms of pass rush, he doesn't offer too much. And Olufemi Oladipo, he could be the guy, but trust on him that in year 1 he's going to be anything more than, at best, another 3. Yeah, that's a stretch. And when you consider this, the pass rush of this team does not necessarily look great. And in terms of coverage, it's not like this is some shut down secondary. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed, you hope he's something else that he was last year because that was a straight up problem. Jarvis Wormley as your second outside corner, it's workable. Roger McCreary as your slot is very nice, but like nothing super special. And your safeties, the same. So you don't have shutdown secondary, and you are lacking not even top end pass rush, but even like average pass rush. So overall, this team split for defense is pretty clear. They have really good run defense because of Devondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons. This might be the best interior duo in terms of run defense in the league. Cody Barton, if anything, he's a great run defender as a linebacker. He lacks kind of everything in coverage as of right now. And for what it's worth, Arden Key actually is pretty good run defender from the edge. So in terms of run defense, I mean, Roger McCreary can do some. Kevin Winston is a really good tackle. Both Amani Hooker are like good safeties there. So in terms of run defense, this team is set up. And that's kind of base of what I'm trying to accomplish here. Now, so what is my mad solution towards improving pass rush of this defense? Well, it's dime defense. And before we get into what and why, we need to establish what the dime is. So for that, I have these very useful diagrams found online. Sorry that they are a little bit bleak. The idea is clear. You have, perhaps this is better, I don't know, tell me what you prefer. You pretty much have 4 defensive players, defensive linemen, so 2 defensive tackles and 2 ends or edge players, and then 6 defensive backs plus a middle linebacker. That's the idea behind dime defense. When you look at it from the schematic point of view, you kind of should be able to realize when you are using it. You are using this on clear pass situation because you are kind of lacking mass. DBs are usually not big and not strong when they should be blocking 350 pounds offensive tackles and they're like 180 pounds. There is a mass problem there. So this is a system that is very rarely used on first, on second downs. It's pretty much almost entirely on clear passing situations. You can get into the system more when perhaps the opposing team is trailing at the end of the game and they are in like clear passing situations. But other than that, teams are staying away from dime because of its problems with, especially against the run. So the most used concept as a dime was probably Baltimore on Kansas as 20% last year. though like this is one thing that I just cannot confirm to you guys, unfortunately, because I tried to find statistics for last year, and in terms of offensive personnel, like, yeah, people are putting it online, but in terms of defense, like, do you live in dime, base, nickel, whatever, not really that much. So I had to let ChatGPT to deep research this, and it's the number that she or he or whatever came up with. So I cannot guarantee them. At the same time, like, if you guys know some site that like would actually allow me to have this data just on hand, I would very much appreciate that. So please leave a link in the comment. I tried PFF, I have premium grades, I tried all other like really good stuff that I use for NFL statistics, but I just could not find the defensive split based on personnel. So if you know, let me know. But let's go back towards this. So it's very, very rarely used other than in clear passing situation, aka third downs, late of the games, and there are even some defenses that pretty much don't use it at all. Other part why this is not actually used that often is like teams are actually like lacking good corners. Like, it's actually that simple in some scenarios that you just don't have 6 DBs to really deploy and be comfortable with. Now, when you look at this, what do you think? Yeah, I'm like, well, how about Titans not only use dime defense, which like last year was just 5%, which is kind of something that, let's say, Mike McDonald disciples who are running the newest, sexiest defensive scheme that following what Vic Fangio did with rotating safety and like preventing big plays, but like this scheme runs it with much more blitzing and actually being able to, do something that just to, I would say, to dictate a play towards the offense rather than just waiting on what the offense will come up with. That's like one of the things, and like Vic Fangio, for what it's worth, like he adapted super well, and like his Eagles defense was so much fun to watch. Some of his disciples could not. Some guys that follow up on the system and improved it in my way come from like Mike McDonald and this like Michigan tree where you see Jesse Minter with the Chargers, you see Darren Wilson here with the Titans, you see Anthony Weaver with the Dolphins. So those systems do blitz heavy, but they rarely use dime defense, because one of the things that they kind of came up with was like using as your slot corner actually much more of a converted safety, and they call the position a star. It's pretty much the idea was we need to find out or figure out how to prevent easy runs. So against that position specifically, because usually it was occupied by a slot wide receiver, a slot corner, 180 pounds, so you can really run on him. If there is a safety converted or like bigger slot that has 220 pounds, it's much harder to run on him. It has much more in detail, but the thing is, like, unless it's Baltimore, when they obviously continued with like a huge part of Mike McDonald's system, they actually lived in dime almost 20% last year. But other than that, those systems with the Chargers, with Seahawks, with Dolphins, here with Titans, they kind of didn't live at dime at all, like under 5% for, I think, all of them, perhaps Chargers, I'm not sure. So why would Darren Wilson just suddenly go like, yeah, this is not part of my scheme to, I should live in this? And again, when I mean live with it, I don't mean use it on every coverage. You cannot do that. Like, you obviously don't use base every time, but perhaps could you run this like 40% of the time? Could this be even first down defense? In some specific matchups, I'm not saying you can do this against Pittsburgh, who is going to run with certain personnel. Like, that would not work. But with certain matchups, perhaps. And here is why. And why I see some of the benefits and some of the problems. So here is kind of how the 11 could look like. Just to get it in one screen, L'Jarius Sneed and Jarvis Bromley would be much more towards the line of scrimmage. And let's look at the personnel. So you have Devondre Sweat as your nose tackle. Next to him, Jeffrey Simmons as another defensive tackle. Nose essentially means he's going to take up on double teams. And if not, it's the Jeffrey Simmons job. They definitely can handle a lot of guard trios among like interior offensive linemen amongst themselves. You obviously have two edge players in Adam Key and Raymond Jones, and kind of a key why I would run this system for this specific team is Kevin Winston Jr. Yeah, you are saying like, for a third round guy drafted this year who has not played the snap in the league, you are trying to figure out the system. Well, not necessarily only for him, but I think he offers me very nice skill sets that I would like to deploy. And those skill sets are those of the star defender, Derwin James, Kyle Hamilton, Brian Branch, hopefully what Eman Worry is going to be for the Seahawks. What does it mean? He's almost a half linebacker with great coverage and really great tackling. So I'm really excited about Kevin Winston, and I think this is the position that you would like him to play. The problem is, for that position, you have Roger McCreary. He is not necessarily a star defender, but he like from the position, not in terms of like quality, but he is a slot for this team, and he cannot really play outside. It's been like 3 years when he played any meaningful snaps on the outside. So you are not putting away Roger McCreary from the roster for Kevin Winston Jr. He is a better player. But could these guys play together? That is an intriguing thought. Second part why I'm thinking about this scheme for this specific defense is Cody Barton is a good run defender, but in terms of coverage, he lacks that. He's just not good at it. But that's not even the biggest problem. This linebacker room does not really have a number 2. Like, at this point, they have, who do they have right now? Like, as a 2, they have James Williams Sr., they also have Cedric Gray. This is definitely LB2 spot that is like one of the worst in the league. And in this scheme, or in this personnel usage, I don't have LB2 on the field, so I'm winning just because of that in some cases. Now, another part why I really like this is Xavier Woods and Amani Hooker. Like, they are not excellent safeties, not by any means, but they are absolutely workable. And both of these guys have tremendous experience playing both free safety and strong safety, which means they are absolutely flexible, which is going to be key in some of the explanations I'm going to give you. And that's pretty much it. So the key personnel for this is like, I have good run defenders from the edge, especially another key. I have a special interior duo in terms of run defense in Devonta Smith and Jeffrey Simmons. I have one good linebacker, and he is pretty much run defense only. And I have two good to great potentially slot corner slash star or slash nickel in Kevin Winston and Roger McCreary. And I have two safeties that are interchangeable in terms of free safety and strong safety. So that means they can rotate quite freely. So that's specific personnel. And with this, the clear problem of this system is you are lacking run defense. You are lacking one big body, big thumping linebacker, middle of the field. That's a problem. But for the Titans, it does not necessarily has to be a problem. And here's why, and why I've proposed to fix this. Because if you try to run inside, you have to go to Devonta Smith and Jeffrey Simmons whilst Cody Barton can definitely run down the line of scrimmage. So, the idea against dime, if it would be all about we can run the ball. So, for example, for first down, we can run the ball. It would be, let's use it and run it down their throat because they are just missing that second linebacker. The thing is, with the system, I don't necessarily think you need to struggle so much because I trust this interior super much. And with Cody Barton, I think he can plug a lot of holes with his run defending skills. And also, with Xavier Woods and Amani Hooker, you can kind of cheat in a way that those guys can read off each other, read from the gap, and whoever's on a weak side where the run or double teams are going to happen there you send the safety as well, while the other guy stays as free safety, which is those guys can rotate post snap, and that's one of the disciples of Mike McDonald's system. Is those guys rotate post snap, and here I think I have premium guys that could really do that. So running into the middle, which is a cheat code if you go against dime back, dime personnel, it's not going to be actually very easy against especially this team and this personnel. And now if you would like to running outside zones or some of the screens, you are running into quite problems because especially Aaron Key is a good run defender, Demon Jones, Emi, Odaleko, like they could do, but with both Kevin Winston and Roger McCreary, those are very good tacklers, and they have, I would say, good enough shiftiness to actually be able to like drift from the blocks. And also with, again, Cody Barton and Xavier Woods and Amani Hooker rotation, you can kind of send guys towards that side if, especially Cody Barton, if there is a screen towards left or towards right, he's just going to rotate there, and these guys can kind of defend the middle. So I would not say that it would be super easy for teams to run against this type of personnel against the Titans, but this would only count, mostly count, if other teams would go in 11 or 10 personnel. What does it mean? 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 halfback/running back. If anyone goes in heavy personnel, 12 or 13, 2 tight ends on the field, or even 3 tight ends, obviously then the lack of size, you are starting to feeling it much more. So you can do this against 11 and 10 in my eyes, even on first downs. Then there is a good thing for you that in your division, the 11 personnel is quite popular. For Jaguars, it's going to be even heavier now with Liam Cohen, who run 11 personnel with the Bucs almost as much as anybody in the league, despite losing Chris Godwin for extended period of time, despite losing Mike Evans. So he lost at some point both his top 2 wide receivers and still lived in 11 personnel. And his system is all about, or not all about, but counts a lot on receiving backs. And again, if you have guys like Kevin Winston and Roger McCreary, those guys are more adaptable towards covering the receiving backs rather than, let's say, slow defensive end, defensive tackle, because they are just not as agile, as shifty as the guys they should be covering. So Kevin Winston and Roger McCreary, to me, they offer you much more in terms of coverage against specifically receiving backs, 11 personnel, and are secure enough tacklers for even if you are going into the run towards their side, they can definitely make play. And in terms of 11 personnel, it's where Colts absolutely do live in. So it should work against Colts as well. And in terms of Texans, it's not like they are like super above average. They are just average in terms of usage of 11 personnel. But against them, my point is kind of different. Their offensive line is a shit show, and I think even this 4 can definitely cause them trouble. And they are all about their playmakers. So if I have more players in coverage or able to cover better, I'm taking away one of the weapons. So I really like this usage specifically for this division and with this personnel. Let's talk about other benefits that this system would have in terms of generating pass rush. And here we come with something that is very, very prominent with Mike Macdonald's system and with his disciples, and that's blitzing. And now I feel like when you have all these guys that could rotate kind of for each other, whereas Xavier Woods and Amani Hooker, Roger McCreary and Kevin Winston, I would even say there is some potential with all of these guys around the line of scrimmage. They could all kind of go into coverage. So, is there a world in which even L'Jarius Sneed, goes and is actually a blitzer? I think there is super, you can really confuse defenses with who is actually going to be blitzing. And I would be blitzing a ton because I don't expect my guys to win 4v5 or with just 4v4 or not one-on-one especially. And unless it's Jeffrey Simmons, it's going to be super hard. But if you can confuse them with rotations, you can scheme up really good blitzes and some really nice opportunities. And for what it's worth, I definitely think that Leonard Wilson showed enough prowess in this and learned from Mike Macdonald that this should be fun. Because literally who you cannot blitz from the system. I mean, you would say one of the safeties because then it's the middle is super, super free. I would be like, okay, I get that, but that's kind of the beauty of having Kevin Winston and Roger McCreary, who are really great in coverage, and they could rotate down the middle to actually cover the middle side of the field where you would actually be opening a ton of space. So to me, when I consider what the benefits and what the negatives of this system are, like the only negative is like you are losing mass on the field and it's going to be easier to run at you, for freaking sure. But when the easiest run are down the middle, you have brick shit house of like Wall there in Tevon Desvan and Jeffrey Simmons, and behind them Cody Barton. It's not that easy. It's not super easy to run outside against this team, because if it's tight end blockings and it's like not like a full size tight ends, but like some wing tight ends like Jonnu Smith and guys like that, you know, actually Cameron Winston and Roger McCreary can do quite a good job against them. And that's pretty much the main thing. Like, you are losing slight presence in the middle of the field, you are losing against run defense. But when you are already one of the best run defenses in the league, you might be able to just turn it out a notch for improving your coverage and improving your pass rush, which is two of the main things that you are, in my eyes, getting. In terms of pass rush, it needs to be true blitzing. It's not like Kevin Winston Jr. is going to be the huge presence from the edge. It's all about, let's scheme this up. Let's use the fact that almost all of these guys can rotate next to each other. I even had some like crazy thought in which like, can you just, you know, drop Roger McCreary into the coverage and like push Jarvis Bromley to be a free safety, again, rotation post snap, and actually allow Amani Hooker and Xavier Woods even blitzing? Like, I think it sounds crazy, and like, yeah, here we are in my Mad Lab, but I don't know, is it so freaking impossible that that could be also? And that's like, we are already talking about actually using all 7 guys in terms of potential blitz players, you know? So I'm not saying that's possible, but maybe. And again, like with the safeties, Xavier Woods and Amani Hooker, the huge benefit that I found when I was looking at this is like, they can definitely rotate from free safety to strong safety. So like, here is Xavier Woods as a strong safety, but you know, if you want your help in terms of run defense to be with Kevin Winston Jr., or you see the full-size tight end on one side and let's say Jonnu Smith on the other, you can cheat Cody Barton on the side against the full-size tight end, against which he has much better chance to take the blocks. So I like the versatility of the system. It would be a lot of scheming. It's definitely dependent on the personnel of the offense, but this is actually a system that against the 11 personnel, which is still the by far almost every team uses 11 personnel the most, like on like Ravens and Steelers are not prevailing with this. I actually like this for the usage of this personnel. And the other benefit is like, I'm putting LB2 out of the game and I'm putting Kevin Winston in, and I really, really like this guy. I want him in. So what do you think? Am I too batshit crazy, or could this actually be even a first down defense for the Titans as something that they run on 40% of the plays, especially against teams like Colts and Jaguars who are going to live in 11 personnel? Let me know.